Hi, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Best Practices of Death Audit. I'm Carlene Gilmore, the Director of Marketing here at PBI Research. As many as you know, PBI has been leading the market in death audit services. For the past 30 years, we've been evolving the industry and helping customers just like yourself minimize overpayments, reduce fraud, and save time and resources. Today's webinar will be recorded, and each of you will receive a link after the presentation. If you have a question, please enter your questions in the box to your right, and we'll save time at the end of the presentation to take those questions. Now, I'm excited to introduce your two speakers. First, Peter Vagalatos. Peter started with PBI while pursuing his master's degree in economics. During his time with the company, he has worked with sales, operations, and data processing team to make sure our customers are receiving the most out of their PBI relationship. Peter has been providing and training our customers around death audit for the past 8 years. Also joining us today is Jeff Anderson. Jeff has worked in sales and sales management since 2001. He has more than a decade of experience in data and software solutions, helping both large and small government and corporate entities achieve their objectives. Jeff has represented 3 different organizations that all were leaders in their respective industries: legal solutions, commercial real estate, and now death audit. We have a lot of content to get through today, so I'll hand it off to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Carlene. I'll turn my camera on here, and good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are today. So we appreciate your time. The goal of today's meeting is to share best practices, to educate and inform. And we've learned from interacting with our clients over the course of time that there's some opportunity to make sure that we're helping you, and in a proactive way, helping you to get the most out of the service that you have with us today. So that's really the goal, to help you with some tips that can impact the results that you get through your service. We will also, here's our agenda. We'll talk about data quality and process and getting those results, and again, getting the most out of your partnership. We will also spend a few minutes informing you about solutions and the evolution that we've gone through in recent time of some of the solutions that we offer. And we'll save some time for Q&A. So as you have questions, please chat those in to Carlene, and we'll take time at the end to go through that. And with any luck today, we'll even finish up before the 30 minutes is over and give you a few minutes back in your day. So before we jump over to Peter with some best practices, many of you have probably seen this graphic before if you have visited our website. You've probably also seen the graphic maybe come through your email with our president, John Bicus, and the blog that he's been writing every couple of weeks or so. And there's some great information in there. Those blog posts are on the website as well. So if you haven't had a chance to review those, I recommend you do. Knowledge is power. The more that you understand the trends in data out there today, the better off that you will certainly be. So what we know is that the DMF is declining and has been in rapid decline. And conversely, the real challenge is the level of results that you can get are coming from obituary data for the most part. So 65% of results coming from obituary data. That means this is a growing challenge of processing that death data. Once upon a time, prior to 2011, there was what was called death audit. And the SSA death master file gave you about 95% of the total deaths nationwide. With the challenge, and what we hear from clients over and over again, it is a challenging landscape to take in the data that's provided through the scored review of obituaries and other state resources and the data that we provide to work through that data. So we want to help you with that in every way that we can. And really it all starts with the data that you provide to us. So Peter is going to jump in here and share more details about data and how you provide that to us.
Thank you, Jeff, and hello, everybody. As Jeff mentioned, I'll be discussing best practices, and I'll do so in two parts. We develop these best practices based on feedback from our clients and our own experience working with death data. So the first part of best practices regarding data quality. And as we all know, data quality drives results. The better your data, the better your results, which means more savings in costs for you. I've told clients over the years, garbage in is garbage out, which means the quality of our results are only as good as the quality that you provide us. And based on our own experience reviewing the results that we've put out to clients, we found that missing data obviously can cost you an overpayments due to missed deaths or overlooked deaths. Obviously, we know about missed deaths, but the less obvious is the overlooked deaths. These are the results of getting results from PBI that are of lesser quality because of missing data or incorrect data, and because they're of lesser quality, you either skim over them and put them off, or you ignore them altogether. Additionally, with the cost of what you see of overpayments and overlooked debts, is you also have the cost of the additional work going into these poor quality results. You know, you're spending time pulling in extra resources to confirm what PBI reports to you, tracking down the correct data, making sure the correct data matches to what was originally reported in the PBI's weekly report. And so what we found looking at our results on the grand scheme of things is if you have a missing data element like the SSN, when we report a match where the first name matches exactly, the date of birth matches exactly, and the location's a match, but the SSN is either missing or off from what you provided us, 80% of those matches you can't really verify. And that 80% is from our perspective. So that's the worst case scenario. Obviously on your end, you may have some internal data. You may take extra steps on these types of matches where you reach out to a person or attempt to reach out to a person. That could take anywhere from 5 minutes, 10 minutes to days until you hear back from an individual and you get the correct information for your record and either confirm the person's deceased or confirm that they're alive, but what that incorrect data matched to in our system was not a good match. You also see a similar match with, or similar percentage with a match where the first name, middle name, or last name is incorrect. So even if the social is an exact match and the date of birth is an exact match, if something's off in the name, we see again this potential of up to 80% of deaths being missed. Even though they're reported, you just can't verify them with the data available. So with the data elements that we suggest all of our clients add to, Jeff, if you can move on to the next slide, please. We suggest all of our clients provide the following information. Now, what we've noticed is a lot of clients, we typically in our format guide ask for just the zip code, but we get the full address. So we can either provide a full address or the zip code. From the zip code, we derive a city and state, but the rest of these data elements are familiar to you. Some of our clients, they know they have some incorrect or missing data. Other clients are not aware of any issues with their data. And that's the key part to your data quality, is determining what you're missing or what's wrong and correcting it. This can be done internally by periodically cross-checking what you provided to PBI with either different sources on your end or with updated internal data. We realize some clients have those resources and those abilities, other clients don't. And if you don't have that, PBI can help you. We can provide a data analysis where we can check all these data elements in the records you've given us and help you determine how many of these records are missing data or have incorrect data, and we can provide assistance on filling that in for you if you don't have the ability to. The next part of best practices is managing your portfolio or managing your account. To maintain your data quality and to get the most out of the PBI reports, we recommend reviewing all of your results, not just looking at specific category codes and specific types of matches, but reviewing all of them. And by reviewing and taking action where possible on the results in your weekly report, you're actively improving your data quality and you're keeping your active record population up to date. With the invalid matches that PBI ultimately will report, these are typically found in the soft search, incorrect SSN, and invalid SSN matches. What you want to do is not just ignore them and leave them on your report. You should review them because one, we may not be reporting a death to you, but there could be an issue with the data you provided. You want to check to make sure, is the SSN correct, or is the first name or last name correct? If you find out that your data is wrong, then you want to correct it. And so using these category codes, even though it might be a bad match, it can be used to help improve your data quality. On the other hand, you might find out that your data is correct, but you don't want to just leave those bad matches in your report, because you might leave the report as it is, and then your coworker might come to the report a week later and do the same work reviewing those results. Or you might come back to it a week or a month later and end up doubling down on the same work you had previously done. And so you want to mask these records and make sure that either your data is correct, or that if it is ultimately a bad or incorrect match from PBI, that it's not on your report, so you're not wasting your time. With the valid results that we report to you, these are found in the soft search matches again, or in the exact matches, the first name, last name matches. Regardless of the type of match that we reported to you, if you've determined that that person is deceased, it was a good match, you've gone through the process and you've processed the decedent's information on your end, you want to circle back to PBI and you want to close the record so that we're not running it any further. The purpose of closing the record is that keeps your population up to date. So you're not having us, over time run a whole bunch of known deceased in your records. Because at the end of the day, when we have to calculate invoicing, we don't want to have to look at your dead individuals, because we shouldn't have to. I mean, we don't want to charge you for something you already know and don't need any further information on. There's two ways to close a record. You can manually do it one at a time directly on the death audit system, or you can submit a file to PBI to do a bulk update. There's pros and cons to both ways. If you're just updating a single record to closed, it's a lot quicker to do that, log into the site, find the record and close it, than it is to put together a file, submit it to PBI, wait for PBI to process your file, and update the record to close. On the other hand, if you have a big change to make, there's lots of benefits to submitting the file to PBI. You can simultaneously close the known deceased records, update incorrect data for the existing records that still need to be processed, and you could add new records. Now, I've just gone through these steps in about 6 minutes, and it can get very convoluted. And so please feel free to contact PBI's account management team anytime you have questions about this. PBI has the largest account management team in the industry. So you don't necessarily have to reach out to the last person you contacted at PBI. You can reach out to a team and you're going to get a quick response from an experienced and knowledgeable professional who can answer you and provide you the information you need to keep your portfolio up to date and to help improve your data quality. So on this last slide for me, you see that we have our contact information. And again, feel free, if you have any kinds of questions about updating your population, reach out to any of us in the account management team. We're happy to answer your questions. And I'm going to give it back to Jeff.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Great job. So with that, from a partnering standpoint and in interacting with our clients over time, we've come to realize that many of our death audit clients don't realize all of the other services that we do offer. And we certainly understand that, death audit is not the only part of the cycle in the process. So as Peter talked about, the data cleansing portion is, there's some immediate opportunity potentially that he offered to you there, and we can help you in that process. There's no cost. One thing I do want to make sure everyone understands, when you're reaching out to client management with questions, or reaching out to me and the sales team with any questions, and helping you upload a clean file, there's no cost to doing that. We do offer data cleanse services, though, that Peter spoke to as well, and we can get more in-depth in those projects with you with what your needs may be. Obviously, with the death audit process, the vast majority of people on this call and those we invited today are our death audit customers, whether you're on our basic or our standard service. Additionally, we offer locate services. So we do have a range of locate services and a very extensive fiduciary locate process, where we provide, we take multiple steps and document along the way to provide to you an auditable trail that is going to be participant specific. And then, of course, treasury management and the communication, we understand, can be complex potentially in those situations, and we can help alleviate that for you in some ways as well. So we'd be happy to have a conversation with you with any needs around the holistic solutions that we offer. With that, let's talk just a little bit more about death data versus death audit. And again, back to the chart and the declining value that the DMF provides. Once upon a time, I mentioned this earlier, the DMF did provide a 95% identification rate. And what we've found is, over the past year since we've introduced the CertiDeath solution, we've been able to bump those results up against others that have a process for getting the DMF and the state record results along with the obituaries, and utilizing their internal processes, sometimes having to subscribe to additional resources to validate those obituaries. And what we're finding is there's a gap there that's been filled in. So that death data challenge is going to continue to grow as the DMF continues to decline. So that's why we want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the delta that does exist there. So the CertiDeath solution, we've mentioned that a few times. There's information about it on our website, and we encourage you to reach out to us and have a conversation about it as well. But a little more in-depth look at that CertiDeath solution and really the difference. So it starts with the data sources, and we're scanning over 25,000 data sources. We are data independent for obituary data, which obviously is very important in today's landscape and the trends to capture the death information. I do want to highlight in step one, our team of data scientists. We have 20 data scientists that are consistently making adjustments and changing our algorithms to ensure that the artificial intelligence is keeping up and the machine learning is happening to provide the best possible result over that vast landscape of data sources. As we're matching, going through that proprietary scoring system, and then very important step three, this is really sort of the most important part of the CertiDeath process, is our PBI experts are going to go through that validation and verification process. We're doing it at a 99% accuracy level, which means no false positives. And at the end result is 95% of death identification nationwide. So really taking us away from the death data landscape and back to death audit once again. So quick look here just at a product comparison. And the vast majority of those on the webinar today subscribe to our standard death data solution, which does give you obituaries. I have had some interactions with clients sometimes where they're not sure if they're on basic or standard. And when you look at the results in your weekly report that comes over to you, you will see the STA if you're getting a state result, a state death record result, or SSA if it's from the Social Security Administration Death Master File. So if you are getting an obituary result, you will see OBIT, and that will be clear to you. So if you're not seeing that today and you're a basic death data customer, certainly reach out to us. We want to have a conversation and get you into the right spot to make sure that you're getting a full picture. In the standard death data pool, the obituary database, it's highlighting here that it's a partial result. And it's not that you're not getting all of our obituary results, it's that the process of working through the all of the potential hits, if we were to send every potential hit over to our standard customers, there would be an immense workload to work through and try and validate, and you'd sort of get this low end needle in a haystack effect. So the feedback that we've gotten over time as we've made adjustments to that from our customers is that, you know, there's a balance there, and most of our standard death data customers are telling us that we're meeting that balance at this point. We hear from many clients that are telling us they spend an incredible amount of time working through that data, and others who tell us, yeah, you know, not necessarily looking at that lower end, but that's really what CertiDeath does, is it's giving you the most full picture of the obituary database and all the potential hits, because we are going to work through that validation process for you. The other piece to the puzzle here is CertiDeath really doesn't require any extra resources for you to work your way through. So the Research Center, you still have access to it when you're a CertiDeath client. However, it's more for that ad hoc once in a while search that you may need. As a standard death data client, the Research Center certainly is recommended for your validation process, and we hear from many others that they may even subscribe to other services for that validation process, which again makes the CertiDeath solution make even more sense at the end of the day, and that's why we had worked that solution out. So we would love if you proactively reached out to us and sort of put PBI to the test. We do have various options available to talk with you about. We can conduct a CertiDeath analysis on your file. That analysis is no charge, and it would give you a very quick look at the potential overpayments that you may be missing with your current processes today. We have also introduced on our last webinar, if you happen to attend that, our CertiDeath 90-day challenge. And this is something we can talk with you about on an individual basis, certainly if this is the right step for you. And rather than paying on the continuous monitoring for the overall file, the CertiDeath 90-day challenge really is someone that isn't quite sure if that's the right step for them, and it's an opportunity to basically have a short run test, and you would only pay for the results that you actually get, the verified results. So we can talk more about that. So key takeaways from today's presentation. First and foremost, updating your data. We want to make sure that you are getting the most out of the service that you have with us today. So by updating your data and keeping a clean file uploaded, that will ensure you are getting the best potential from us to work through the results that we provide. Secondly, as you're working through those results, marking those who have been identified as deceased within the PBI portal. And if you need more help from that, certainly reach out to us. We've got some documentation we can send over to you, or we can work with you directly in a quick training session over the phone as well. And that's step 3. Reach out to us. We're happy to help. We want to be proactive, which is why we wanted to conduct this webinar at this point in time. Certainly being knowledgeable on not only the trends, but the very practical steps that you can take to ensure you're getting the most out of the service is important to us. So we want you to feel good about the service that you have with us today. So I think that's where we're at, and we're ready for questions. Carlene, while you're queuing up the questions there, I do have one comment that I'd like to make, and I missed something on the product comparison slide as we were talking through that, and that is for the customers that we have in our standard service today. The obituary results that you're getting from us, we want to make sure that you understand that second to CertiDeath, those obituary results from the standard service are better than any other result that you're going to get out there in the marketplace today. The data that we're providing to you from those obituaries, we have found over and over again as we've worked with those that maybe with some of our competitors, that even at the standard level service over the years, you're getting the best standard obituary data service solution that's available. But again, highlighting the CertiDeath difference, there can be significant value in that for you. So with that, Carlene, any questions in the queue?
Yes, we've had some come in. So this one I think is a good fit for Peter. You spoke about closing a record. How do you do that?
So again, there's two ways to close a record. One is manually going into the Death Audit site and into the client data section to find your record and to close it. As Jeff mentioned, we do have guides that our account management team can send you if you want, that are more detailed. The other method for closing records is to do an update to your population by submitting a file to PBI. For the most part, we have a kind of a gray area of how many changes qualify to taking your time up to make a file, to do a file submission rather than doing it manually. But around 20 records or so, if you find yourself needing to change about 20 records or close 20 records, it's probably better worth your time to create a file and submit it to PBI rather than manually finding each record in the client data section, opening the action drop-down menu, selecting close, waiting for the page to refresh and redoing that 20 times. Yeah, please feel free to shoot me a quick email or send an email to help@pbinfo.com and ask for the guides we have for those kinds of actions.
Perfect. In CertiDeath, do you verify that the obituary is a true match with the family or via some other method? Or do you only send high matches if the information all matches the obituary?
That's a great question. Yeah, and Peter, I'm not sure if you can maybe articulate that a little better than I can.
So we validate the obituary based on the data elements that we receive from you as the client and any additional information we pull from commercial data. We do not reach out to the family of the decedent to verify. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. I think we have time for one more question. There are other questions in the queue right now, and I apologize, we won't have enough time to get to them. So we will have someone follow up with you directly to make sure you get the answer. While asking the last question, I am going to make a poll question live on the screen. I ask everybody just give us a little feedback if you found this webinar helpful. And then while you're answering, I'll put one more question out there for Jeff and/or Peter to answer. Do you charge for the data cleanse services?
Yes. So the data cleanse services reach out to us, and that on a project by project, depending on your needs and the services. We can take a look at your file. There's no cost for us to certainly have a conversation about it and look at what needs are and give you an assessment and talk pricing with you.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I think, we're 1 minute over. Want to be sensitive to everybody's time. So thank you so much for joining the webinar today. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll reach out to any of you who had